And we are going to play. We're going to play with AI for the next 20 minutes. And for that, I am welcoming on stage the most rock and roll guy in the room at the moment. And you know straight away afterwards why I say that, Steve Matthews. Have a seat, Steve. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
But before we are going to play with the machine, I think we need to know about Steve first. You're a development executive at Banijay.
That's right, content executive.
Content executive.
Whatever exactly that means. Yeah, I'm sort of creative support amongst the various different Banijay companies. In my bones, I'm an old script hound. That's really me.
An old script hound. That would be a nice thing on your...
I asked for that, but they wouldn't put it in the contract.
No. So on a day-to-day basis, what does that mean?
Airports.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, basically that's my life. Is I have a suitcase and a script in my hand, and as long as I know where I'm going and who I'm talking to the next day, so that's my life. Is in and out, talking to writers at various stages of the process. Bit of trying to foster relationships and within the group and so on and so forth. But the core of it is working with writers.
And Banijay has how many production companies?
No, I've learned this now. I know this. I think there are 130 production companies, of which around 60 do some version of scripted in 21 territories, and in the year 2022, 130 scripted titles were released. I learned that.
Yeah, and were you involved in all of that?
Every single one. No, that was before my time. No, most of my work is Spain and Nordic, because, as you know, I've sort of basically replicated very similar territories that I was working at in HBO Europe.
When you were working at HBO, yes.
Exactly. And I'm moving on now into some other territories, sticking in the non-English language area. That's really my expertise over the last 10 years or so.
And you say various stages of the project. I mean, walk me through it. A production company calls you, Steve, can you take your suitcase, come and help? What happens?
Exactly. It can vary from somebody sends me a script and says, what do you think?
Yeah.
Through to, can you come over for a couple of days? And you know how it is. You say, well, yeah, I'll have a look at it. And then you fall in love with the project and you're in, and you're in. But, we debated this a lot. Sometimes it's, here's the third draft, it's ready to go in. Steve, you haven't seen this one. Will you have a look at it? Can you do some work on it? And sometimes it's, we're interested in the idea, which is what we're going to be talking about today, really. What are the bones? What's it really about? Trying to find the heart of it.
So you also work with writers that only have a seed of an idea, in that sense. Do you?
Yeah, kind of. It will vary anywhere along the phase. I mean, I try and say to production companies, don't send me everything that comes in the post from you, because it's the production company's decisions. I'm always there to help and support. And a huge part of my job and my thinking is, where is the line between me and the writer? Where is the line between international and local and all of those things? And that just seems to be the thing that I'm quite good at finding.
And do you use certain methods, certain tools?
No. I mean, people say to me, I was in Stockholm a couple of weeks ago, and I was asked to do a talk, and how do you do it, Steve? I don't really know. But I mean, honestly, I really don't know. Well, again, not wishing to spoil where we're getting to, but I have a deep belief that every project is different. I'm suspicious of models. Until you get further down into the process, I think that those things that everybody knows in their 20s as development executives. Nobody knows anything. Every project is different. Those things, we all kind of know them. It took me about 20 years to really know what those things mean. So everyone is fresh. Everyone is new. So I hate to overthink how I do it, actually.
Right. And of course, in this space right now, a lot of AI tools are popping up.
So they tell me, yeah.
So they tell you. And we're going to play around with one of them today. That will be the machine.
Okay, yep.
And why I said, Steve...
Where's the machine? Where is
the machine will come on stage very soon.
I'm expecting a kind of robot to come on or something.
Yeah, it might be something like that. But first, why Steve is the most rock and roll person in this room today is because he has agreed to react on an idea that he hasn't read yet. And I have that right here. I'm going to give it to you right now. And we're going to see it on the screen. Would you like a pen with it as well, just to make it a little...
Just to play with, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, to play with the aesthetics.
God. As Sarah Lancashire said earlier that everybody in the industry is exposed to some extent. I feel like I'm up here in my boxes, I really do.
But this is why we're so happy that you agreed to play with us today. And I mean, it will be fun.
So does the audience at home get to see it as well?
That was the whole idea, that the audience gets to see it as well. Do we have the slide? There we go. So this is a Moroccan writer, Jawad Lalou, who has actually agreed to have this up here on stage, even though he knows everybody can do...
You didn't tell me the writer was going to be in the room.
The writer's not in the room.
Oh, good. Okay, fine.
No, he's not in the room. He might rewatch it later.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it out loud, or is it better to give you a moment of silence?
Read it out loud, gives me time.
Okay. So a scientist that has lost his wife and children in a car accident he caused is convinced that near-death experiences are real, because he's been experiencing them during the accident. Using himself as a subject, he will bring himself back from the edge of death countless times to travel and map the afterlife, realizing that to move forward in death, he will have to relive and let go of the traumas in his life and ultimately his responsibility in the accident.
Okay.
How would you proceed? What are the crazy ideas that come to mind?
Well, I mean, some things occur to me that I'll talk about. There's some things I know, but the first thing is I'm not coming up with ideas anytime soon in this process. Job number one is tell me about it.
Tell me about it first. Yeah.
But I look at this, I'm a little bit relieved.
Good.
Because I know the near-death experience is cool and it's interesting. There's genuine research being done on that, and I know it's a definite thing somewhere between science and the supernatural thing.
Right.
So I know it's and I don't believe anybody's done it in a realistic way with the new research that's been done over the last few years. So I think that's
there's an opportunity.
So I think it's okay, cool.
Yeah.
My market side of my head is thinking supernatural. That's going to be the next thing after Spies. We're going to get. I believe that people should be looking at shows with a supernatural edge to it.
Right.
Now, going deeper into, and this is the bit, how do you do it? Well, I've just been around a long time. So I know certain things about certain forms. So this is essentially flatliners, okay?
Yeah.
And if you really look very carefully at flatliners, one of the problems with it is like, but what actually is the drama?
Yeah.
It's like the ghost. The problem is it's nebulous.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So, you've got a bit of a supernatural thing, that's cool. You've obviously got an emotional story about a scientist who's lost his wife and children. The word scientist tells me that the writer is interested in exploring a barrier between the supernatural and the scientific. All of that is cool. But how do you actually dramatize this? How do you actually dramatize he will have to relive and let go of the traumas in his life and ultimately his responsibility? Yeah, but what's the actual stakes? What's the actual jeopardy? I'm seeing internal stakes. I'm seeing internal jeopardy. But how does it actually work week on week? It says bring himself countless times. So
how is he going to do that?
Exactly. Well, I don't care. I mean, look, he can do it he can go to Hogwarts and get a magic wand. I don't care. I don't care how he does it. Nobody cares about that. You'll buy that stuff. What actually happens every week? Does he just go back in time and relive a part of his life?
Is it the near-death experience of the week?
Well, exactly. Does he have to relive the same car crash every week? How many episodes are you going to get out of this? What really happens? Yeah. Now, a show where somebody is trapped in time and like Quantum Leap or Time Tunnel and pops up and gets into an episodic story every week, I can understand the machinery of this. So that's where this needs work. How are you going to dramatize it at the front? What actually happens every week? Why is it, it's too internal at the moment in terms of the machinery I'm seeing here.
Of course, with the 5 sentences that I would be able to have you read, we couldn't really go a lot further into the content.
No, and in real life, I wouldn't say any of that.
No.
Because all of that is, that's actually mathematics. The plot is the last piece of mathematics. Yeah. How it actually works in its bones is the thing that we've got to work out. But in the first conversation with the writer, you don't talk about any of that stuff. I mean, like, you work with me at Midpoint. Yeah. My colleague Tatiana, who may be in the audience, when she does it, I don't think she talks about the project for about 3 or 4 days. Nope. She just talks to them to get to know them. So what I'm really interested in here in my first conversation with a writer, what I'm really interested in here, the delicate bit, the gentle bit, the human bit, is lost his wife and children. Why do you want to write about somebody who's lost their wife and children? That's the real center of it. Is there something in this writer that has got something about grief? Is there something personal in here? I want to sneak up on that.
Okay.
And that's the heart. That's the thing that will make you cry if there's something there. The rest of it's just Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
It's just stuff,
Okay.
you know, the rest of it's machinery. And all machinery can change once you found that thing at the heart of it. This writer should be writing about grief. That should be the primary word that applies to this project.
Shall we go test it with the machine?
Okay.
And the machine is actually represented by Jes Brandhøy, who is my colleague at Nordis Film. But just like my side hustle is moderating, his side hustle is developing AI tools. I don't know what's better. Yes, welcome to the stage. Yeah,
Hello.
give him a hand.
It worked. Hi.
And hopefully, what we're getting now is, there we go, is AI Canto. Yes, would you tell us a little bit about the tool?
Yes, so what we tried to build here is a development tool that has the ambition of putting the creative person in the driver's seat. So I think the most basic way of understanding is to say this is a contrast to generative AI. It is built on top of generative AI, but it's actually non-generative, because the way we've set it up is that pretty much exactly what Steve just did, asking questions, guiding the creator into getting more different, interesting ideas. And I think there's been loads of AI here, and there's been loads of AI going on, and I think this was our take on how to say, how can we actually put the creator in the driver's seat? How can we maybe build something that can amplify their already brilliant skills?
It's collaborative. It is supposed to be a Steve.
Our character is called Susan, but that could be a Steve.
Yeah, exactly. You have Bob and Susan, but together that is actually Steve.
That's
I would say.
Steve, yeah.
So let's play.
Good. We'll play a bit with it. And one thing, I think, one fun thing maybe to start with is to go, so we've got some different characters over here. You can see my mouse browsing around. So depending on where you're at in your project, you can actually engage with different characters. A bit like having a writer's room available for you all the time. We also have some presets. So maybe just to kick it off, when you've got an idea like this, it might be fun to just do a crazy idea variation on the project, just to get the creative juices flowing.
So here we go.
Here's Bob.
Bob is saying a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot here. Bob,
Can Bob be a little?
Oh shit! It's a lot of
Bob
ideas.
is going crazy.
But maybe just
Bob's fast. I can't deny that.
We cannot argue with that.
And I think it's quite important to say this might be the most generative part of it, but this is actually just to get ideas going. So these might not be the best ideas, but it's sort of to cover new angles. So first one, do you want to read it out, Marike? Should I read it out?
I mean, that's just.
We've got Astral Anarchy in this version. Steve. Oh, this is
Yeah,
actually.
we're calling him Steve now because it's Steve against the machine. Yeah, okay.
Discovers that the afterlife is a chaotic realm filled with rebellious spirits, and he must unite them against an evil entity trying to control the
this
afterlife.
is crazy.
It went a little Hogwarty there. Then we've got the Quantum Rebirth. Steve's near-death experiences unlock the ability to jump between parallel dimensions, each with their own version of the afterlife. Oh, there's several afterlives now. He must navigate these different realms to solve the mystery of his family's accident. So he becomes a bit more of a detective in this one. Then he's got Soul Hunters. Steve becomes a ghost hunter, helping lost souls find peace in the afterlife while battling malevolent spirits that are preying on the living.
But nothing of this, sorry, yes, to interrupt you, because otherwise we can go on until tonight, I think. Nothing here, Steve, is focusing on the grief.
No, these are the
maybe
crazy
that's
idea
crazy
variations.
enough.
Yeah.
But, you know, as I said, you know, there's like, you know, how does it actually work in its machinery being stage 2 once you've got to the heart of it? And that's the delicate bit. The next part, how does the series work? I must admit, I actually really like number 3.
What one
Number
did you
2?
like? Which one?
Number 3,
2.
the ghost
3, Soul Hunters.
Because he's got a particular problem that he can't resolve.
Yeah.
But what that gives me is a story of the week. I get a supernatural detective agency. So if you look at, you know, I don't know, House. House has got a deep psychological problem, which is tied to his leg, which is to do with pain, which is to do with medical. But if that's all it is, it would be boring. But he gets a case every week. That gives me a case every week.
So you
that's
could
a
actually
series.
use this.
That's an episodic series.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Yeah, I'd be happy with that. I'd be happy to carry to run with that.
It's a bit too much Steve with the machine right now, but okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you have Susan as well.
Yeah, now we've got Susan, which is the synthetic version of Steve, maybe just called Susan. So we can actually scale these different characters. So depending on where we are at the process, we can decide if Susan should be super critical, a bit more balanced, creative, and of course always short answers. So Steve, you know this.
I'm going to do that. I like that. I'm going to do that.
Do you want to crank her all the way up to critical, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, let her be critical.
Fully critical, creative, and short answers.
Yes, short answers good.
I'm a bit scared about this. We're just going to go very, very... Hi, Susan. Just see how she is feeling today. Oh, she's welcome inside, at least. Maybe that was a little too critical. We're just going to scale her down and reboot her here. So all of these different characters are based on all the storytelling methods and brainstorming methods and stuff like that. So now she should be a little friendlier.
You have to say hi again. Yeah.
Oh, now she's more happy. Oh, she's got something about the emotional journey here, which I think what we were thinking about with the grief, maybe.
Well, actually, yes, in a way.
Yeah.
We don't have that much time yet left, unfortunately.
Are there anything? Should we put you head to head with Susan? What would you ask Susan? Now you've got like a copy of yourself.
Yeah. What would you like to ask Susan about this?
I'd like to ask her advice on how to write the intense emotional journey.
Intense emotional journey?
Yes.
Or internal?
No, the intense emotional journey.
What she refers to.
Yeah.
Good.
She says the emotional journey the scientist goes through is quite intense. Here we go. This is short. This is short.
That's a short answer. That should be a little shorter, maybe.
She's a proper development executive in that sense.
Yeah.
But she's touching upon some of the same themes, and she got the same thing you had, Steve, about like all of these different near-death experiences. How do we actually dive into this? Now she's got very little information, the exact same as you did. But of course, the progress from now would be for the creator to keep on engaging to see if they can get new ideas, new understandings of their own project.
Would you use a tool like this?
I must admit, I'm learning, and I still think at that second page, for me, that's still not deep enough. Yeah, a writer's going to say, yeah, I know.
So
yeah, I know.
It's not deep enough, you say?
I know I've got to interweave the emotional story. I know that. But then to some, but you know, I'm not going to do that either. I think what I'm trying to say is that what I think I'm learning from this is that, you know, I think AI. Forget about dubbing and all the other. I think AI for crunching plot at that second and third stage, I think is probably really good. I think if you ask it for just suggestions for stage 2, how does it really work? I think the ghost hunter thing isn't bad, but I still don't think that as a piece of writing it's going to be great without that human thing of why do you want to know about grief? Well, actually, I lost a child. When that happens in a writer's room, you just like the room goes completely silent and something happens. So I'm still finding it a little bit. You need to do this.
Yes.
But not how to do it. That's been my slight gap when I really look at these AI
that is
tools.
the proper human.
In terms of, and I'm not talking about analysis from a broadcaster's point of view. I'm talking about purely, can it help a writer? And I think it can at certain levels, but I think there's a gap at other levels, I think.
I think that is a beautiful...
But I'm actually impressed.
Oh, well, there you go, yes.
And maybe just...
We made it work. It's not Steve against the machine, unfortunately. He's with the machine right now.
And maybe just to end on Susan's little remark here, when we talk about plot, just because you said plot, remember, this is just a rough sketch. The beauty lies in filling it with character, emotions, intriguing storylines, and memorable dialogues. Oh,
thank you, Susan,
who would have thought?
Thank you. Who would have known? Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I wish we had an hour to play around with this, and maybe we should do a follow-up session next year, because I'm really curious to see where the tool is then as well. But for now, Steve, thank you so much for agreeing to this, and yes, thank you for showing. Bye.
Thank you.